The Guyana National Bureau of Standards speak to an institution which deals with standards, right? Yes, it does. The GNBS is responsible for the adoption and development of standards to guide the implementation of quality and other requirements across all sectors of the local economy. And this month, you will be hearing from our friends of the Standardization Department of the GNBS. Welcome to another edition of the GNBS in 30. With me in studio is Mr. Elton Patram, who heads the Standardization Department. Also, allow me to welcome Ms. Selina Arjun, from a technical officer within the department. Thank you both for participating in this month's program. Under our tagline, creating a culture of quality through standards, the GNBS has over 600 standards available to help in bettering the products and services available to you, our viewers. These standards are applicable to almost all of the sectors of the economy. So let me kickstart this discussion with Mr. Patram. Mr. Patram, can you start off by telling us a little bit about what is really a standard?
Thank you, Baby. A standard is really a document. It outlines specification or requirements for a certain product or service or a management system.
I see you have one with you actually.
Yes,
that
sure.
Probably you can show our viewers what it looks like.
This one is a standard for requirements for the operation of a laboratory. And so basically inside of this has requirements which will tell the user what they need to put in place or what they need to do in order to efficiently and effectively run a lab. And so this is just one example of the many standards we have. Basically,
Yes.
to remember easy, it's a document with all the requirements. We just need to follow those requirements.
All right, thank you very much. And can you tell our viewers a little bit more about what your department does?
Well, the department is Standardization Department. We have a few activities which we carry out on a normal basis. The first is primarily what we call standards development. And that term is used broadly to include adoptions of standard, a review of standards, revision of standards. They are all referred to broadly as standards development. We also are responsible for publishing and sale of standards. We have other activities within the department. One is that we are the secretariat for the Codex contact point. And Codex basically is the international body that deals with food standard, which is jointly set up by FAO and WHO. And so they develop standards for food. So Guyana has a secretariat, and it is housed at the GNBS. And so we coordinate with a national Codex committee. We coordinate the activities of Codex. And the other thing that we do there in our department is that we are the inquiry point for WTO TBT. That's World Trade Organization, Technical Barriers to Trade Agreement. It asks for an inquiry point to be set up, and the GNBS is the designated inquiry point. So members from other WTO countries can make inquiries as to what standards we have, what technical regulations we have, and likewise, national stakeholders could ask us to make inquiries of other members of WTO as to what standards, technical regulations, and conformity assessment procedures they have if they want to export their products to those countries. So in a nutshell, those are the things that we do here within the department.
Thank you very much. I think that was easily explained, even for me to understand better what the department does. Did you know that anyone can request a standard to be developed? Yes, we don't just put together a standard or adopt a standard and then put it out there, but anyone, if you think a standard is required for a certain product or service, you can make a request. And Selena will tell us a little bit about how do you go about making a request.
Thank you, Bibi. So the request is done by filling up an NWIP. NWIP, as it's familiarly called, it stands for New Work Item Proposal. It is a 3-page document with 11 sections. We really want the proposer to say what exactly he or she wants, and the proposer can be anyone. It asks for the title, what you want the item to be, deliverable to be, really in a concise form. The scope, what should the deliverable cover, and what should it not cover, the exclusions. You need to provide a purpose and justification, what the benefits are, trade-related benefits, social and economic benefits, health. It also asks what exactly you want the standard to be included on, whether test methods, terminology, or technical specifications. And importantly, it asks you who benefits from this standard and who is negatively impacted. We also ask who else do you think should be involved in the development of the standard? And are you prepared to engage in the work?
That's perfect. So when somebody requests a standard, you cover all base and all parts of ensuring that you understand what is it that they're looking to address.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process of developing the standard?
Okay, so once that NWIP comes in, it goes through an evaluation. Evaluation is done by the Standardization Department. It starts with evaluating the need to determine priority for the development of the standard. It assesses the social and economic importance and the stakeholders' perceived and future needs in keeping with national development plan and policy. Once that evaluation is completed, the request is sent to the National Standards Council for their deliberations. Once that standard is, if it is rejected for development, we inform the proposer and they can. So we send that in, we work with them, or once it's approved, the workload really begins. The standard, the request is assigned to a technical officer like myself who will act as the technical secretary of the standard. We begin work on our working draft. We research other national, regional, and international standards. This working draft is then circulated to the working group, who is composed of stakeholders, including but not limited to groups from government agency, research and development, academia, industry, and commerce. The working draft, they run through it and ensure everything is okay. Once everything is okay, it's approved as a committee draft. It is then sent to the technical committee, which again is a group of diverse persons. They're not limited to any or not one of the classes of stakeholders take over that committee. We want to ensure a thorough document that is not biased to anybody. After the technical committee reviews that document, once they ensure it's okay, it is then approved as a draft Guyana standard. The draft Guyana standard or inquiry draft then goes out for public comments for 60 days. We inform the public via the GNBS website, the social media pages, and the press that this draft Guyana standard is available for public comments. During that 60 days period, we host public consultation where we invite the public to come, or since the advent of COVID, we do it virtually. We present on the requirement of the standard, and the public is asked to submit any questions or comments which they may have. When that inquiry period of 60 days is over, we take those comments, we collate it and analyze it, and we send it back to the technical committee for the deliberation. We begin disposition of comments to ensure that what can be included in the standard or what can be included, what can be disregarded. Once the technical committee approves that document again, it is then a final draft Guyana standard. If they do not approve that document, because of significant changes based on the comments from the public, we then issue it for a second round of comments for 30 days. Once everything is okay, the committee agrees, it is then a final draft Guyana standard. That final draft Guyana standard is sent to the National Standards Council once again for its approval or rejection as a national standard. After it has been approved, the head of standardization will arrange for the draft Guyana standard, the final draft Guyana standard, to be publicized, and we will add that to the list of our existing catalog of over 600 standards.
Thank you very much. It seems like your job as a technical officer is really cut out.
Yes, and one point to add, the standard development process has two methods: the fast track method, which takes approximately 4 to 10 months, or the normal development, which takes 18 months.
With a lot of research included and a lot of back and forth to ensure that everybody benefits.
Yes.
As you would have learned that the standards also include a period for public comments, so other persons can be able to make a public comment. Right now we have some standards out for public comments, and you're encouraged to visit the GNBS Facebook page or check the newspapers and you will see the notice that you can make an input. Let's take a short break as we take a look at a little bit more about what the Standardization Department does.
Standards are a universal language, ensuring the same level of quality no matter where you go. Think of standards as a formula that describes the best way of doing something. The Guyana National Bureau of Standards is Guyana's national standards body, which facilitates the development of our national standards. The Standardization Department of the GNBS works with a number of experts in their various fields, as well as other regional and international standards bodies to facilitate the development of the standards we use. Businesses wishing to give their customers the best should conform to relevant standards. Find out more by contacting the Standardization Department of the GNBS. GNBS, creating a culture of quality through standards.
Welcome back. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 600 standards available for the benefit of our viewers, whether it's in relation to food, consumer products, wood products, petroleum, mining, agriculture, construction, or the environment, and the list goes on. Recently, to make these standards more accessible to stakeholders, the GNBS launched a standards portal, which is accessible on our website www.gnbsgy.org. Mr. Patram will explain to you a little bit about the standards portal. What are the interesting features that it entails?
Okay, thank you. So the portal, as was mentioned, is something that was recently launched. It is something that we have been working on for some time, and now it's a reality. In fact, what the portal will do, it will help a person in the public domain to be able to have access to information in relation to standards that are available. They just need to go on the internet and they will get that information. Previously, how it used to happen is that persons would have had to come in to the bureau, or they might have to call in and then we provide that information over the phone. And it's now better because the person now don't have to come in, they don't have to call, they will go on the portal. So the portal, you are allowed to search for standard. You can search for an individual standard that you might be interested in, or you might not even know the name of the standard, just put in like a keyword.
That's true. That's most times with me as well when I'm looking for a standard.
Yeah, and it will come up. All the standards with that keyword will come up, and when you click on any one of them, it provides you the information on the standard, the title, the year of publication, the number of pages, and some other information, including the price for the standard. You can also search for groups of standards. So there's the option to select the subject, and once you select one of the subjects that is mentioned there, all the standards under that subject will show up, and now you can have access to information on those standards. So it's something really making things easier for persons to get information on the standards.
That is true, and it also includes a scope where persons can try to read and understand if this is exactly what they're looking for.
That is true. So the scope will just give you an overview of what the standard is and what it covers. So you have a fair idea of what you're looking for based on what you read in the scope.
Okay, that's interesting. And the price, as Mr. Patra mentioned, is also on the website. Our prices are not in any way high. They're actually affordable. And this is a welcome initiative given COVID-19, where you want more virtual engagements instead of having persons to come into the bureau to do these engagements. Can persons, while you're able to access the standards online, can persons actually purchase a copy of the full standard electronic?
Okay, so when you identify the standard that you want, yes, you can purchase, but not the regular online purchase, like using a card and purchase. What you can do, because of we're still developing, what person can do now is if they, for example, wire the money, sometimes persons overseas may want to have a standard, they wire transfer the money, they do a wire transfer, and we prepare the standard and we email it to them. So in that sense, online, yes, but not at this point. Maybe in the near future we will get to that stage where you actually use a credit card and get your standard. But for now, we can email it to you. Even if you're not overseas, you're living right here in Guyana, and you want to have the standard electronically, you can get it. Or you have the option to get it hard copy. Depends on what you choose, you get.
That's so interesting. Thank you very much. And now we will take a short break again to look at the video of how to access the standards portal. Mr. Patram spoke about the standards portal, and we'll give you a walkthrough of how to access that portal. Implementing a standard can help your business. It helps to not only build consumer confidence and increase revenue, but standards can open avenues for exportation of your products and the demand for your services. The GNBS, in fact, has adopted a number of standards from the CARICOM region, and that is from the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standardization and Quality, which is CROSQ, which, when implemented, allow access to locally produced goods to markets within the CARICOM region. Mr. Patram department works along with CROSQ, and he will tell us a little bit more about this regional collaboration. Over to you.
Thank you. So, as was mentioned, CROSQ is a CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, and it was set up as one of the organs under CARICOM. It was primarily set up to deal with regional issues related to standards development and other matters related to quality. So Guyana, as a member of CARICOM, or I should say the Bureau of Standards, along with all other standards body in CARICOM region, makes up what we call CROSQ. And just to give an example, all the directors, executive directors of the various National Bureau of Standards forms the council or the board of CROSQ, and they make the decisions relating to regional standards development and other matters related to quality.
And Guyana oftentimes, well, the GNBS adopts standards from CROSQ. Can you explain a bit about how that process works and why is it that we adopt standards?
All right, so when the regional agreement was signed, that was in 2001, part of the agreement is that the member states adopt these standards after they have been approved at the regional level. And so there is like an automatic adoption of those standards because we have been participating in the process along the development stages. So when it comes to the end, we are already confident that it is a standard that we can adopt because we are involved in the process. And as per the agreement, we adopt the standard once it has been approved at the quoted level.
And because we're involved in the process of developing the standard, we also know that it can work or it can function in Guyana in relation to Guyanese products and services.
Right, because we had our national stakeholders. They were part of the process. They give their comments. They say what they like, what they don't like, and they are in acceptance or in agreement with the content of the standard.
For our viewers, stakeholders, what are the benefits of implementing a standard adopted from CARICOM?
Well, the major benefit there is that because we have a regional standard, it is harmonized, meaning that all the CARICOM member states will use the same standard for that particular product or service. And so if you, for example, have coconut water, the standard for coconut water in Guyana is the same as coconut water in Trinidad or Barbados or wherever. So if we want to sell or export coconut water to one of those countries, they know that we are using the same standard and we're using the same requirements, so it makes it easier for regional trade.
It makes it easier for you stakeholders for your products to be accepted in these other CARICOM countries if you adopt the standards, if you implement the standards that are adopted from CARICOM. Do you have offhand some of the standards that we have actually adopted from CrossQ?
Yes, we have labeling of foods, labeling of prepackaged goods. We can talk about coconut water, as I just mentioned,
Yes.
and a few others. In
Correct.
fact, we have about 40 standards that have been adopted from the regional standards.
All right. Thank you very much. Before we go any further, let's just take a look at the recent events and activities that the GNBS has been conducting to promote standards. The GNBS on September 22nd and 23rd conducted a two-day training session for block makers who are members of the Guyana Society for the Blind. The training formed a part of a collaboration between the Bureau and the Central Housing and Planning Authority. The block makers were given the opportunity to learn about the requirements for the national standard for concrete hollow blocks, the technique for block making, and GNBS testing and certification programs for the product. Let's take a look at the highlights from the opening ceremony.
The GNBS, through its Certification Department, certifies concrete hollow blocks which conform to the national standard specification for load-bearing masonry concrete units to guarantee quality and consistency. Additionally, the Bureau's Industrial Metrology and Testing Department conducts the tests on concrete blocks to assure customers that these blocks meet the requirements for compressive strength, moisture absorption, and dimension. One may very well ask why a standard for something as simple and mundane, as a concrete block? In answer, we would point to the ubiquity of concrete blocks in our local construction industry and to the fact that quality and consistency of any product are extremely important. I'm truly encouraged by this block making training initiative for a number of reasons. My first reason for optimism is that exercises like these help to develop our human capacity so that citizens can develop the skills to meet market demands, thus providing employment for themselves and others.
You may know that the GNBS certifies PVC pipes to the national standards. This certificate is valid for 1 year, and on September 14th, the GNBS recertified PVC pipes manufactured by Plastic Products Limited for continually meeting the requirements of the standards, which serves to ensure quality products are sold on the local market. The company received a certificate which permits it to use the GNBS standards mark on pipes manufactured. 2 plaques were also handed over to the company for display at its sale outlets to boost consumer confidence. So be sure to look for those standards mark and the plaques to know which companies are certified by the GNBS for certain products. Now, this is an issue we have addressed multiple times on various platforms, the blue dial scales. On September 6, the team of GNBS inspectors, accompanied by ranks of the Guyana Police Force, engaged in a market surveillance exercise to seize and remove defective and unapproved devices in use. This exercise was conducted at the Stabroek and Border markets, where there seems to be a pervasive use of the unapproved dial scales. As a result, 50 dial scales, which were not approved for commercial trade, were seized and removed from vendors. Vendors and shopkeepers, we urge you to do the right thing, which is to acquire the use of devices approved for trade. Meanwhile, consumers, to safeguard yourself, avoid making purchases from vendors and shopkeepers who are bent on selling from the unapproved devices. And finally, in the month of October, which will be Agriculture Month, the GNBS will roll out its Good Agricultural Practices training for stakeholders in the agriculture sector. Do visit our Facebook page or message us on WhatsApp number 6924627 to learn more. So as you're learning, for those who are not already aware, the GNBS does not operate in isolation. In fact, apart from CrossQ, there are several other regional and international organizations that the GNBS partners with to ensure the best standards are implemented in Guyana. Selena, can you tell us a little bit about the other organizations that the GNBS collaborates with?
Sure, baby. We collaborate with ASTM International, which is responsible for technical standards, ISO, the International Organization for Standard, which develops technical, commercial, and industrial standards, and also IEC, the International Electrotechnical Commission, which is responsible for electronic, electrical, and other related technologies, those standards they will develop.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Patram, speaking about ASTM International, can you tell us a little bit, tell our viewers a little bit about our collaboration with ASTM?
Okay, so the GNBS has an MOU with ASTM International, which allows the GNBS to adopt standards prepared by ASTM. So we have that collaboration, so we get their standards and we can use their standards, and we can adopt them as national standards.
And these standards are in relation to which sector that ASTM covers?
Well, so far the ones that we have adopted or in the process of adoption is some in the petroleum sector. We have for PVC pipes, pressure pipe and non-pressure pipe, and associated test methods. And we have some that we are looking at right now, soon time to be adopted. Those has to do with concrete masonry units or concrete blocks. The load-bearing blocks and the non-load-bearing blocks. And so those will soon come on stream. So these can be used in the construction sector. Right, so once a person is using those standards, wherever you are in the world, it will be the same thing.
All right, thank you. And as it relates to ISO, can you tell us a little bit about the collaboration with the International Standardization Organization?
All right, so that too, just like how we develop national standards, we develop regional standards, and there is also international standards. And ISO is one of the leading organizations that develop international standards. So ISO has what we call policy committees, which has to do with governance, and ISO also has technical committees, which has to do with standards development. And today, Guyana is part of 4 of the technical committees of ISO, having a share or having a role in developing standards in those committees. If I can just mention, it's Energy Management Committee, Tourism Committee, Environment Committee, and the other one is a subcommittee of Foods Committee. So the subcommittee is Spices. So we just focus on that part. So Spices Subcommittee of the Foods Technical Committee. And we have stakeholders who are part of those committees, and they make comments, they make contribution to those international standards.
All right, thank you. The international standards that are adopted in Guyana, I think the most common ones that people know about are the ISO 9001 and the Environmental Management System related ones. The GNBS also offers training and consultancy on the various ISO standards, including that 9001, ISO 22000, ISO 14001, among others. But speaking about collaboration, the GNBS currently also recently signed an agreement with the American Petroleum Institute to make crucial standards for the expanded oil and gas industry available. If you've missed our last program on that topic, you can visit our website or social media pages for more. Before we close today's program, I'd like to ask Selena and Mr. Patram, do you have any closing comments?
Well, I would like to thank the viewers for listening to what we have to say. I believe that the information might be useful, and that if you have any further questions or clarifications, you can feel free to call the Bureau, ask for the Standardization Department, and we'll be willing there to assist you with whatever information you need.
And of course, be sure to implement and to purchase standards from the Standardization Department.
Yes.
All right, and those contact numbers that Mr. Patram referred to are 219-0064-66, and our WhatsApp number is 692-4627. Be sure to contact the GNBS and ensure that you implement standards in what you do. Thank you very much.